Okay, so this is just a very quick look at the Wild Wild West action figures made by X Toys in 1999. I'm currently going through a camera setup change, which is why the audio and video is not great, but hopefully that should be improved. In the meantime, I'm kind of using this video as a tester. So, the figures you see before you, as wonderful as they are, if I pan up just a little bit, they ultimately released 7 figures, 8 if you include the roughly 10-inch Will Smith in the centre there, and 2 vehicles. The 2 vehicles they released were the derailleur tank and the Desert Wasp nitro cycle. The one I'm looking at today, this is the Desert Wasp nitro cycle. I actually have 2 of these, which is why there's also one behind, and this one's been on display, which is why Will Smith is broken from his plastic coffin. Let me get to the back of it. Okay, so that gives you oh, they really thought this was going to be more successful. That gives you an idea of what was available. They also did Burger King toys, Burger King sunglasses for some reason, which didn't work, fancy dress costumes, albums, all kinds of albums and soundtracks, actually about 3 versions of just one song, and I'm sure you know what that song is. But this was the main toy line, which hardly anyone got in stock, and I picked these up really cheap when I was overseas in the US, as you can see, or maybe not by the camera. I think they were 98 cents each, I believe. The vehicles, I'm not sure. I think I picked those up separately. This one in particular is probably the most impressive of what they did. However, it does involve some construction work and the plastic is quite flimsy. It's good enough to pose on a shelf, but if you were a child, you wouldn't want to try and actually throw it or ram it into a wall. In fact, just picking it up, as I discovered earlier, will sometimes cause things to drop off. There is also one thing that's slightly different by design. The pictures here and here, the back of the nitro cycle has 4 painted plastic parts, but in the box it actually only has 2 painted plastic parts. Well, they're not painted, they're printed, that loosely clip in either side, and the rest is just the black plastic. So clearly something changed midway through. That one is the derailleur tank. I'll probably look at that one next week when I've got a little more time. I don't actually think I've ever taken one out of the box. But there we are. So the figures consisted of 2 Jim Wests, 2 Artemis Gordons, 1 Dr. Lovelace, Rita Escobar, and Bloodbath McGrath. There was also this James West variant that came with the nitro cycle, and the variant of Dr. Lovelace that came with the derailleur tank. However, the variant of Dr. Lovelace only includes slightly more articulation in the legs. So, the derailleur tank, as it stands, looks like that. Yeah, probably more impressive in the box. So, here's one I made earlier. So this is the Desert Wasp Nitro Cycle, or Air Gordon, yeah, as the film tried to. Yeah. Anyway, basically, once put together, this is all you can do with it. The figure doesn't sit on the bike exactly as he should, but it's good enough. There are firing missiles that are just underneath his feet, which can't quite reach the pedals. If you push them... Okay, that one actually went quite far. When I tested this earlier, it went absolutely nowhere. While my cat rescues that, there are pieces here and here. All of this is assembled, and then these 2 bits clip onto here. There is also a stand, because the penny farthing nature of this bike obviously would topple straight over, so they give you a no expenses spared plastic stand. But that's actually quite handy. The figure of James West, or Jim West if you will, it's more or less non-posable. He has articulation in his shoulders and in his legs and in his neck. That's it. 5 points. The gun on the side pops off but doesn't fit into his hand. And obviously his arms don't move from the fixed position, which, as you can see from the figure in the background, is exactly the same, even though that one is not intending to fly, the nitro cycle, and it's more or less the same as the other one up here, which has the same kind of body design as well. Zooming on it a bit. So, bearing in mind the quality of toys at this time, with N2 Toys making Matrix action figures, for example, very limited articulation. Yeah, I mean, the Men in Black figures were around 3 to 4 years prior, still had the same limited articulation, and had the limited action features that these figures normally have. These are no better or worse. They serve their purpose for the end of the millennium. They're exactly what you'd expect they'd be. They're certainly better than the Burger King toys, which, for any fans of this movie, and I'm sure there's one or two in the world, the only way to get the spider, if you can see it in there, the giant mechanical tarantula that's the entire point of the film, and a rather funny speech by Kevin Smith, if you get a chance to look it up. The only way to get that spider was in a Burger King toy, which seems like a massive missed opportunity, considering that was the film's main selling point. However, the figures didn't do very well. They all ended up on sale, as you can see from where I got them from. The film did okay, despite what reports may have you believe. It made money, it just didn't make enough money to guarantee a sequel or indeed warrant one, unlike Barry Sonnenfeld's other movies, Addams Family, Men in Black. It wasn't quite the hit that Warner's wanted. In fact, Will Smith went on to apologise to original actor Robert Conrad for portraying James West in this movie at all. You know, it was based on an old TV series that I've seen and very much enjoy, and it can't hold a candle to it. As a big budget movie, it's a good idea. I love the steampunk western aesthetic. As a piece of entertainment, it somewhat falls short, but, you know, I've watched worse things on worse days. So, in the meantime, this is the Nitro Cycle. This has been the video test, just to see how this goes, and if my upload skills are still working. And this is also before I've started to edit any kind of this video, so at the moment it's completely raw, and will probably be redone with better cameras, much better dialogue. So there we are. The Will Smith James West Nitro Cycle can be found on eBay for usually under $40. That sound was my cat falling in an empty box. Yeah, can usually be found for under $40. The derailleur tank's a little bit more, but for the purposes of a display, I've seen worse. The film, for example.